Right. Today we'll be discussing about the ecology and environment. Let us first try to understand the fundamentals again. We will have so much of correlation to what we have discussed in the previous session, that is environmental impact assessment. So most of the you may wonder looking at few concepts and then few terminologies in EIA which can be sorted in or which can be understood clearly in when we go through this session called ecology and environment, right? Because ecology or ecosystem basically forms a very fundamental to understand any life on our environment, or any system of life, the way they live together, the way they behave with one each other. So this is all part of ecosystem, and this is what forms of basics for everything that we do in the broader area of environment. So let's go ahead and then understand the term ecosystem first. So ecosystem, essentially eco basically means it's life. We are essentially talking about life, okay? And then ecosystem means the way of life, the order, the organic, the organizational pattern of this particular life, okay? And so as a definition, ecosystem is defined in such a way, collection of biotic and abiotic factors in the environment. So this is what, if I could quote, so you can basically quote ecosystem as this, like a collection of biotic and abiotic factors in the environment. So that means biotic means life, okay? Whatever that has certain life is categorized or named as biotic, okay? Biotic species, biotic entity, biotic element, or whatever it is. And then abiotic is nothing but non-life, okay? So anything that is not having any life, okay, and yet it is a part of our ecosystem is basically called as abiotic, okay? So these are, so the collection of these biotic and abiotic factors, okay, in the environment is referred to an ecosystem. But most essentially we talk about, or we consider, biotic factors, okay, components which has life, and then how they help each other survive, or they form a cycle or form a pattern called ecosystem, okay? So then abiotic factors, as I said, are a living things in an ecosystem, hence a prefix called bio, okay? Bio usually refers to a life, okay? When you say biology, you are essentially talking about the life, okay? Your study of life, okay? And then abiotic factors are non-living things. So as you can see, this is a picture, infographic image which shows you what is basically happening in this ecosystem, okay? So you have different components of a ecosystem that is there in this particular photo or image. So you can basically say, see, ecosystem has at every level, okay, ecosystem need to be understood with certain boundaries, okay? When you're talking about ecosystem and when you're talking about this biotic and abiotic components or factors, you don't basically form some certain boundaries, because that is that seems a little complicated, okay? So everything that has life, everything that has not that has no life are seen in a same picture, and then you're terming it as ecosystem. So that means, where does the boundary fall, okay? So you don't basically understand that boundary, but ecosystem can be studied, okay, only when you keep certain boundaries to it, okay? Let's say, for example, I'll simplify this concept with this, with the help of this picture. Let's say this, whatever you see in this particular picture, okay, image is an ecosystem, isn't it? We have abiotic and biotic components, agreed? So now let's say you wanted to basically study certain life that is there in this particular water, okay. Now when you are studying certain certain components that are there in water and you wanted to understand its ecosystem, right? So what do? You don't want to consider the other factors like secondary consumers, okay, primary consumers, okay, essentially the sun, okay, because you are wanting to understand how maybe a small aquatic life, okay, is happening within this water. So now this itself kind of forms a ecosystem. Okay, so that means I have given a boundary to it. Okay, so my ecosystem is falling within that boundary, and beyond that I am not worried, because that's where my study, that's where my idea of wanting to know things in that particular boundary. So this is how you give boundaries and then see ecosystem. Okay, so it is up to us. So we have to draw some context and then we have to draw a boundary and then understand, oh, okay, so this is where aquatic ecosystem means. This is what a land ecosystem means. This is what a forest ecosystem means. See, when you are talking about the forest, you only talk about the species, different type of species that are available in forests, the rainfall, which is falling on the forest, the sun, the green, the green cover, the fertility of the soil, okay, and the resources that are available in the soil. You don't mix desert ecosystem there, isn't it? So you are essentially talking about only forest. So that you are talking about the forest ecosystem there. So that means you have created a boundary, isn't it? So that's how you understand ecosystem. So you have to bring in some context to it and then understand. So in the due course of this presentation, so everywhere we'll try to understand this context, but then to understand or to discuss ecosystem as a boundary, what are the different parameters that we should look at, okay. So those also will be discussing. So and this is important. Maybe I thought it is very important because that's the origin of this particular ecosystem term that came from. So there is an botanist, English botanist named A.G. Tansley, who has created this term called ecosystem in 1935. Right, so he is the one who gave the term called ecosystem. Right, so so these are the two components as we were discussing, biotic and abiotic. So in biotic components, we have all the living organisms or living components, which includes microbes, plants, animals, human beings, okay, other living species. And then in abiotic, it's a non-living components which include in physical and chemical form, right? So you can take soil, water, air, rocks, okay, they are in physical form, isn't it? And when you talk about chemicals, maybe your calcium, your magnesium, okay, so whatever minerals and then minerals that are available in chemical form, okay, even they are also categorized under this abiotic components. So how they basically help us in understanding the whole structure of this ecosystem. A is, you have two important aspects to understand when you wanted to kind of comprehensively understand ecosystem. One is structural aspect and functional aspect. Okay, so these both kind of need to be understood parallelly, because when we talk about living components, okay, living components, so how they interact with the other species or other category of living components or other category of non-living components, and then how they make life, okay, is basically a functional aspects, okay. And now which level of living components and which interact with another level of living components can be seen in structure. So that means we have to understand first how they are structured, and then through this structure how they are interacting with each other, okay, is basically a functional aspect. So as you can see, in structure you have biotic components and abiotic components, okay, and in function you have food chain, food web, energy flow, cycles, pyramids. So essentially whenever you see in ecosystem, you only hear these cycles, okay, pyramids and then flow, okay, because that's a pattern where the life is basically happening, okay. These are the certain patterns. So you can, these are essentially identified using the geographical forms. As you can see, circle, cycle, pyramid, like triangle, and then flow in a direction. So and chain, okay. So these are certain patterns of how functionality is happening in the ecosystem, okay. And then when you look at the biotic components, physical and chemical, and then abiotic components and biotic components, you have further classifications in biotic components. As I was talking about the levels of biotic components, you have different type of categories in it, okay. So biotic components are majorly classified into 3 other components, that is autotrophs, consumers, decomposers. Usually this is, yeah, so this is basically categorized as autotrophs, okay. So they are basically a producers, okay, you can call them as producers. In other term you can call them as producers also, okay. So let us discuss what they are. So what does autotroph means, what does heterotroph means, what is producer means, what is decomposer means. So this is what a ecosystem and functional ecosystem would look like. So we'll go to the next slide and see how they interact with each other. Yeah, so if you can see this slide, so we have under biotic we have producers, decomposers and consumers. So these are majorly what define or what basically explains you the structure or ecosystem functionality, okay. So A is producers, as I said, they are basically termed as autotrophs, okay. And then these consumers and decomposers, they are called as heterotrophs, okay. So the consumers essentially are basically called as heterotrophs. Consumers essentially are called as, this one are called as heterotrophs also. So now what does producer do, okay. So producers are the living organisms which kind of produce certain components, certain factors to the environment, okay. They make their food by themselves, so they don't depend upon the other living creatures or living species, okay. So these are called autotrophs, okay. So though they automatically function their living, okay, with the help of natural environment that is there. They don't pouch, or they don't feed upon the other living organisms. So that's how they function, okay. For example, we have green plants, okay, cyanobacteria, algae, okay. So these are certain autotrophs, okay. And then we have chemotrophs. Again, this is again part of your producers only, right. So they kind of help in producing rich nutrients and then other minerals to the environment, Okay, so this is called producers, and then we have another category which is called as consumers. Okay, consumers are again further divided into different categories based upon their type of like type of eating habitats. Okay, like herbivorous, carnivorous, omnivorous, detrivorous. Okay, so these are different consumer sections. Okay, so they essentially depend upon the other type of species, or they depend upon other type of categories, like they depend upon producers essentially. Okay, and they also depend upon the other subdivisions within the consumers only. Okay, so this particular consumers has certain levels. Okay, so that means which certain species like herbivorous comes first, and then the carnivorous, then the so it's like that. So they have certain levels where one level is dependent on other and other level is dependent on other. So it's like that. So their food chain basically, or the survival will basically be in certain pattern, right? And then next we have is decomposers. So decomposers is essentially a very important element in the whole ecosystem, because if we remove decomposers, then as we have discussed the cycle, okay, the cycle of the ecosystem, so this cycle of the ecosystem would not be possible, because I'll tell you why. So decomposers are essentially the components, biotic components, which help us in breaking down the whatever organic matter that is available in the nature. Okay, let's say autotrophs produce some byproducts. Okay, for instance, let's say we have plants, okay, which fall on the ground again, okay, and then they kind of have to decompose. Okay, now what is happening here in the process of decomposition is there is certain amount of breaking down of these organic matter, okay, whatever is there is happening, which again produces certain energy and then certain minerals back into the nature. Okay, so that means it is essentially converting, the decomposers are converting this particular waste into a useful minerals. Okay, so that's what is happening with the help of the decomposers. The decomposers can be anything, anything which help in doing that, maybe earthworms, because earthworms, they help in breaking down the food, right, and then there is certain kind of cellular respiration that is happening there, right, and then they convert the soil into a fertile soil, isn't it? They help in decomposing and then composting. Okay, so these are certain, and then there are different bacteria which help us doing that again. Okay, so these are different decomposers that we have. So if we don't have them, okay, let's say if we don't have them, then that means there will be lot of waste that keeps on generating piles and piles, and then there wouldn't be this cycle that will be happening, isn't it? So that's how the decomposers work. And then you have abiotic: light, soil, water, temperature, climate, which again helps the pyramid of the energy flow, or maybe the functioning of the ecosystem possible. So then so this is basically a structure. I wanted to just give you how the functioning happens, how the pattern basically flows. Okay, so this is a generic pattern, okay, on an entirety. If you look at ecosystem, this is how it basically follows. So we have organisms. Oh, hope you are basically, just zoom a bit. Yeah, so you can see we have organisms. Okay, so organisms means it's a life. Okay, so any form of life, a life which is in any form, is basically called as organism. Okay, so now this organism, okay, it is termed as or it will become a population when if it is in groups. Okay, let's say I have here a bird or a fish of certain species or certain category. Okay, now when you have them in multiple numbers, okay, or in groups, you call them as population. Okay, so a group of individuals of the same species occupying a given area at the same time, right? So population, so you have to be mindful in this wording. Okay, population means a group of these any organisms of a same species. Okay, you can just see this, of a same species. Okay, so yeah, so population is basically a group, okay, a multiple of the organisms in the of a same species in a given area. Okay, and then the population basically makes a community when we have a different species together. Okay, like, you know, as I said, fish. Okay, if you are taking, let's say you have say a shark. Okay, shark is of one species, isn't it? Right. Now let's say you have a other aquatic type of like whale, right, and then maybe a starfish. Okay, so like this. So these are related to fish family, but then they are of different species. Okay, so now all these together make a community. Okay, so that means a population of all the different species occupying a particular place is basically forming a community. And what community makes a ecosystem? A community of different species interacting with one another and with their non-living environment of matter and energy. So this is what we are essentially talking about. So this is what makes an ecosystem. Okay, so now again the ecosystem is what makes a biosphere, okay, or ecosphere of all the earth's ecosystem together. Okay, so here, so hopefully by this particular definition you should be able to understand that for every ecosystem you can draw certain boundaries and look at it as ecosystem. Okay, and then when you have put all different type of ecosystems and different boundaries together and then look at it, it is called as biosphere or ecosphere. Okay, yeah, so yeah, so then this is a normal, I just wanted to give you a current understanding, a current scenario of how we basically see ecosystem as. Okay, it's a context that I want to bring in, or probably an awareness that I want to bring in, just to realize what we are basically doing to this ecosystem. I have two images here. One is named as EGO and one is named as ECO. Okay, now you know what is ECO. ECO essentially means eco, okay, means life. Okay, and then how you are basically seeing this image is, you are looking at this image as a certain circle. Okay, and then you being one among them. Okay, so that means now you are very much interdependent on this, isn't it? So you are dependent on them, they are dependent on you, it's like this. Okay, you are one among them. Okay, so that means the amount of importance you have, okay, you are giving the same importance to it. Okay, kind of balancing, you want balancing everywhere. But if you look at this image, okay, ego, right, you are putting yourself on the top and then beneath all, above all these other species that you have. Okay, which is making yourself kind of unbalanced here, isn't it? Because you are no more interchanging, but you are only taking. You are not giving back anything to any different species, isn't it? So this is basically how our lifestyle is happening, because you are in verge of taking all the resources that are available around you, okay, but there is no giving back to it. So that's where the human error is happening, okay. So that's where the dysfunctionality or imbalance in this functional ecosystem is happening, okay, which is causing all the problems related to climate, environment, and our ecosphere or the realm of ecology, okay. And so note that this basically called as realm of ecology and is been termed by Townsend, Begon and Harper in 2003. So then let's move on to understand the classifications of the ecosystem, okay. So far we have discussed about what are the different categories we have in ecosystem, okay, biotic, abiotic, and then how they function with each other, and then what are the different terminologies or different levels we see in this particular segment. And then now let's see how it is classified, how the ecosystem is classified. So ecosystem essentially is classified into two, okay, terrestrial and aquatic, okay. But even before that, since in today's context, we can basically say that ecosystem is first broadly classified into natural and man-made, okay, because now you can see this a less and this of more, okay. So but studying of ecosystem means you study the natural ecosystem, okay, so that you understand where exactly are we basically standing in terms of the balance that is happening in our environment, right. So in natural ecosystem you have terrestrial ecosystem and then aquatic ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem essentially means, okay, it basically talks about the landforms, okay, it basically talks about the land ecosystem, okay. It can be in forest, it can be a grassland, it can be a desert, or it can be any other landform, right. And then aquatic ecosystem, you have again you have different ecosystems here, okay, freshwater ecosystem, marine ecosystem, okay, and then you have river ecosystem, a pond ecosystem, okay. So here you can see in freshwater you have running water ecosystem, right, and then standing water ecosystem, lotic and then lentic you call it, okay. So these are different further classifications. So you can further keep going, when you are talking about the different. So as you can see, a running water ecosystem he is saying. So that means he is basically talking about the about what kind of characteristic features that particular aquatic ecosystem possess. So if it is running water, maybe the pattern of ecosystem there may differ, when compared to the ecosystem of a standing water, because in running water what happens, there will be so much of sedimentation happens from one place to, like, there will be continuous erosion of minerals or deposits on that in that particular aquatic ecosystem, and then they dispose from one place to another place, isn't it? But wherein a standing water ecosystem, it doesn't happen. In standing water ecosystem, you have minerals, the sediment mineral deposits are there, they remain there until and unless some external force is kind of helping it or moving it to other place, isn't it? So that's how the ecosystems are looked at, okay. It's looked at based upon the characteristic features, the phenomena that they undergo, the very functioning patterns of it, okay. So with this you can further keep subdividing it or subcategorizing it. So this is how the classification of ecosystem happens, right. And then if you look at aquatic ecosystem, you essentially see different type of aquatic life, that is happening as a kind of chain or interactions that you see of different lives. Okay, as you can see, you have dolphins, crabs, arrow squids, zooplanktons, okay, bacteria, seaweed. So all these few others can feed upon the other species, and then these will feed upon the other species, and these will feed upon the other species. So it's like this. So this is basically this is essentially how the ecosystem is working, isn't it? So it's like this. Again, these will be taken by all of this. So it's a interchanging there is happening. So there is certain life that is happening with certain balance. Okay. So now in this you can see there is a non-living abiotic factors also that are available, and biotic factors are also available, which is making or which is helping the ecosystem survive. Okay. So as you can see, sunlight usually helps the water to warm up or keep it warm, right, which again helps this particular whatever vegetation that we have in the bed level, a seabed level, do the cellular respiration. Okay, they help that particular warmth, the temperature or heat energy or sunlight that is coming out of it produce certain or make that photosynthesis thing happen. Okay, and then this kind of releases some oxygen. Okay, again where the fishes and everything will feed on, which need certain oxygen. That's how they take oxygen, isn't it, from the water. Okay, and then again these small sand, whatever bed is there, it will have minerals where the seaweeds, okay, and other bacteria will feed on. Okay, and then they will be fed by other organisms. So this is how the abiotic components are helping the biotic components and vice versa. Okay, so this is how the ecosystem is being kept intact, right. So then we have terrestrial ecosystem. Okay, again terrestrial ecosystem again does a similar kind of follows a similar kind of functionality like the aquatic life ecosystem here also, but here in terrestrial ecosystem I just wanted to give you an understanding of how many kind of landforms we have, so that you understand how much diverse ecosystem we can basically expect out of this. Because if you look at tropical rainforest, okay, tropical rainforest has a rich vegetation and then rich diverse species which produce good amount of oxygen to our nature or to our environment. Okay, so that itself has different type of a vast diverse ecosystem within it. And when you look at temperate forest, again this has different type of ecosystem in it. Okay, so likewise Mediterranean, temperate, mountains, so these are different type of ecosystems based upon the climatic conditions. So these terrestrial ecosystem essentially are driven by the climatic and weather conditions of that particular region. Okay, let's say if you take desert. Okay, now what do you see? You see hot sun, okay, hitting the ground, and then you see unfertile sand, okay, and but it has its own ecosystem. You can see there will be different species of vegetation that will grow there. Okay, and you see the desert ecosystem kind of maintains or balances that what we call that ecospheres ecosystem, because everything in excess is not good. Okay, which is basically a probably a nature's philosophy. Okay, everything that is in excess, okay, is not good, because let's say if you have excess of tropical rainforest everywhere, okay, that is also a problem, because you have complete diverse ecosystem. So tropical rainforest that will probably not absorb heat, but only it will basically give you a cold springs or cold atmosphere, which is not good. Okay, because living organisms, few of them may need heat or warmth to keep themselves away from other kind of diseases or whatever it is. So this is not just the ideal way of having it. So they may also need certain warmth. So that is why we see different type of landforms and different weather conditions and weather climatic conditions which help them survive. Okay, so that's where you see these different type of terrestrial ecosystems come into the play, and then they form an ecosystem. So so let us just read out this so let me just read out these sentences for you. Ecosystem is incredibly diverse. Not only can ecosystem vary in size, but it can also differ in just about every imaginable biotic or abiotic feature. So that's what we have discussed. And some ecosystems are marine, others freshwater, and others yet terrestrial land based. Ocean ecosystems are most common on earth, as oceans and living organisms, they contain cover. So as we know, oceans basically cover almost 75% of our earth surface, okay, in which we only see 1.8% of the earth surface covered with the fresh ecosystem, okay, or freshwater ecosystem, okay, from which we kind of rely on which we kind of rely on. And again, within the rest out percentages portion, we have terrestrial land ecosystems which is covering the earth. So as you can see, that means we are majorly a terrestrial ecosystem which is majorly a very little portion of the entirety of the earth is having a diverse ecosystem. So that is what it is saying. And then this terrestrial ecosystem is again further grouped, as I was just talking about, based upon the further based upon the different type of landforms and then different type of climatic conditions, which is called as biomes. Okay, so that particular classification is called as biomes. Okay, so biomes is nothing but it's basically based largely on the climate. As I said, examples of this terrestrial biomes include tropical rainforest, savanna, deserts, coniferous forests, deciduous forests, and tundras. So these are few examples of these biomes. So you call these as these type of ecosystems as biomes. Okay, so what does this biome means? Biome means essentially, it is a kind of ecosystem setup, okay, which is predominantly influenced or characterized based upon the climatic conditions of that particular region. Okay, let's say if you look at this particular picture, right, so these are different type of biomes you have. Okay, so each and every biome has its own characteristics. Okay, so sometimes let's say if you are taking this portion which is tundra, okay, you see polar bears, okay, you see dolphins, you see penguins, you see different type of species of animals, and you see different type of minerals that are available here. And when you compare it to, let's say, this one which is tropical savanna, tropical grass savanna, again you have different type of ecosystem here. You can't see a polar bears and all these things. Okay, you see other wild animals, okay, which has different type of what we call respiratory system, which has different type of food habitats, which has different type of respiratory balancing. Okay, so this is how the ecosystem means. This is how the ecosystem works in biomes. Okay, so so what are the reasons you know, of these categorizations? So how do you think these are basically formed? These many biomes are formed. This is essentially because of the obvious reasons, that is geographical locations, the geographical formation of our earth, okay, and their positioning to the sun and then the moon, okay, because they play a major role. So let me just take you to the next slide, which can possibly, yeah. So see, majorly there will be a classifications of the climates also based upon the you know, distribution of the geographical or topographical you know, features to the external part of our earth, okay, that is sun, okay, a solar system or whatever it is. So now this particular you know, earth is you know, is basically experiencing different type of you know, climatic conditions, as you can see, okay. In this particular equator, right, you have tropical regions which will experience good amount of sunlight and then heat, okay, because they kind of are close to the sun, if you look at it, okay, and these kind of, you know, go away from the sun's you know, distance, okay, they keep moving away from the sun's distance. So that's how this sphere our rotation and then revolution happens, isn't it? So this phenomena will you know, is a primary reason you know, which help the earth experience these different type of, you know, climatic conditions, okay. So if you look at other picture, so here I can show or rather I can say that with the help of this picture, you know, you have this zone with the greatest heating produces with low pressure, okay. Whenever there is a good amount of heat, the pressure of on that particular region will be less, okay, and on the you know, farthest points of this particular sphere, okay, on the extreme top and low, you have least heating zones which produce high pressure, not only because of the temperature distribution but also because of the you know, the geometrical shape of that particular sphere, okay. So now this is a reason you know, which helps the you know, the globe cause the different type of you know, climatic conditions and different type of species, okay. So this is another picture which shows, you know, why there are you know, what we call differences in wind pattern, okay, because you know, what happens is, here the distribution of the land is such a way that, you know, you have high pressures and low pressures, okay, and then whenever you have high pressures and low pressures, obviously the wind kind of tries to drift away you know, from the high pressure towards the low pressure, and then or vice versa, okay, based upon the revolution and rotational you know, aspects. So that's the reason